move on to Toy Story 2, which okay, I don't have the DVD for Toy Story 2 here, but it's the sequel to Toy Story, in case anybody's confused. It's one of the rare sequels that actually manages to almost, if not equal, the quality of the first one. I think when I was a kid, I loved it, and then I hated it, and then I loved it again. Right? So this was the one I remember waiting for ages for the VHS for the video to come out. I was always asking my mum, "When's Toy Story 2 coming out on video? I want to watch it," because I saw it in cinemas. This is the first one I know I saw in cinemas. I remember seeing it in cinemas, and I loved it. Of course, I loved Bullseye, I loved Jessie, all of those new characters they introduced. Again, Toy Story just has this. All three films just have this complete treasure trove of characters. And over the course of 3 films, it's amazing how many characters they've actually fleshed out, added, developed. It's amazing. Nearly probably more than some other Pixar films combined. You probably combine maybe 5 other Pixar films, and they still wouldn't have as many characters as Toy Story trilogy does. But Toy Story 2 is itself, it's just such a perfect continuation of Toy Story 1 in terms of the story of Woody. And the whole trilogy, Woody is the main character. Woody is the through line, and it's all about Woody's. Every film Woody develops, like it's. I was watching a video the other day that was about Pixar and how they tell stories, and basically in the first act you give a character a passion, something they're obsessed with, and then a flaw to do with that passion. So for Woody, his passion is Andy, and Andy. Playing with Andy, right? And he does everything with Andy in mind. Every action he does, he's thinking about Andy. And his flaw is then his selfishness, which I mentioned earlier. And so what he doesn't see anything outside what he thinks. So he sees, oh, I'm doing this. Andy would want me to do this. It doesn't matter what Buzz or what Jessie or anyone else says. Andy would want this. And so at the beginning of Toy Story 2, this creates a problem. Right, because he wants to get back to Andy, but then he realizes that he'll never. When he gets to Al's apartment and meets Jessie and Bullseye and the prospector, he's allured with this kind of. So we'll talk about it later in Toy Story 3, but there's this kind of promise of immortality, of just being love forever kind of thing. So he nearly does give up on Andy, and the thing is, Woody has to learn to find his passion again in Toy Story 2, and it's Buzz that teaches him, again, just like Toy Story 1, Buzz teaches him to find that passion, and he sees past. So it's like kind of like the lesson that Woody learned in Toy Story 1 went too far in Toy Story 2, and Woody lost himself, and Buzz has to help him find his way back to the Woody he once was, if that makes sense.
I didn't even knew about Toy Story 2 until I was like, I don't know why. I was reading a magazine in some barbershop, if we still have those these days now. And I just saw an advertisement for Toy Story 2 on VHS. I was like, oh wow, they made a sequel to Toy Story. Well, I have to get it now. So I bought that, watched it, and yeah, I loved it as a kid. I loved the new characters, Bullseye, Jessie. I was obsessed over them. I don't know. It was just a film that was, just as equal to the first film in quality and story, and sort of grew the characters a bit more.
Same tone, everything, perfect. Yeah. Also, it continues with there's a theme of the cowboy, the western versus the sci-fi, the space toy. The Space Ranger, and the whole conflict between that, and kids just lost interest in the Western when the astronauts went up. That's a line that the prospector says in the movie, and I think that really they must have thought of that when they were producing Toy Story 2. They must have just thought, here's an idea. Let's just take this conflict between the cowboy and the Space Ranger and just make it into this kind of larger conflict that Woody is a part of, because he's a forgotten toy, basically.
Well, you could sort of see that in the first one It's not.
Yeah, it was there in the first one, but
The second
that's
one.
why it's drawn. That's why it's drawn so organically from the. That's why the plot seems so organic, because they drew it from the first one. They got this idea and they expanded upon it in the second one.
Yeah, and we should say Toy Story 2 is pretty much Pixar's most challenging film to
Yes,
make.
it did have a 9 months production schedule because the entire film was remade in 9 months.
Yeah, they had more than that, but the film just didn't turn out the way they wanted it.
Yeah, it was going to be directed to direct to VHS, and then Disney said, "Oh no, let's ramp it up for a theatrical release." And
I have a feeling that the reason why the roles, you can sort of see that they've switched up the first one to the second one. I have a feeling that it was pretty much like similar to Toy Story when they had direct-to-video, and then they just decided to change the story up a bit and make it a bit longer.
Yeah, and they did all that animation though. They did all that animation work in 9 months. It's incredible.